Welcome to Relaxed Reddit Readings. Today we have 4 Reddit stories for you. Reddit stories that will make you question everything about relationships. Story 1. My roommate wants to use my gaming PC for OnlyFans content. So my roommate just asked if she could borrow my expensive gaming PC to film OnlyFans content, and I'm honestly shocked by her reaction when I said no. I'm 18 and living with 2 other girls in this tiny apartment we've been splitting rent on for about 7 months now. One roommate is totally fine, but Mia, who's 19, just started doing OnlyFans recently. Look, I don't really care what she does for work, that's her business. But last week she comes knocking on my door all sweet and innocent asking if she can borrow my PC for a few hours because her laptop is complete trash and slow as hell. She wants to film content in her room with her ring light setup and needs something with better processing power. Here's the thing though, I spent literally $2,000 on this gaming setup. It's my baby, you know. I use it for gaming, streaming, schoolwork, everything. And she's asking to use it for something that could potentially get viruses or weird software on it, not to mention the moral implications I'm not comfortable with. So I told her no, sorry, but I'm not comfortable lending out my expensive equipment for that kind of work. I tried to be polite about it and suggested maybe she could save up for a better laptop or use the library computers for editing. Well, she completely flipped out on me. Started screaming about how I'm slut-shaming her and being unsupportive of women in business. She called me a prude and said I was being judgmental about her career choices. Then she started bringing our other roommate into it, telling her I'm being discriminatory and trying to get her to take sides. Now the whole apartment is awkward and tense. Mia keeps giving me dirty looks and making passive-aggressive comments about how some people aren't real feminists. She's even started leaving her ring light and camera equipment in the common areas, I think just to make a point. The other roommate is trying to stay neutral, but I can tell she feels caught in the middle. I'm starting to wonder if I handled this wrong. Maybe I should have just let her use it once to keep the peace. But honestly, it's my property that I worked hard to afford, and I should be able to decide how it gets used, right? I mean, if she wanted to borrow it for school or regular work stuff, I probably would have said yes. But using it for adult content just makes me uncomfortable, and I don't think that makes me a bad person or a fake feminist. The whole situation has me questioning whether I'm being unreasonable or if she's just trying to guilt-trip me into getting what she wants. Am I wrong for setting boundaries about my own expensive property? If you're enjoying these stories, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which story you relate to the most. Story 2. I refuse to give money I raised after learning my coworker lied. So I just discovered that a coworker I organized a fundraiser for has been lying about her financial situation, and now everyone thinks I'm the villain for refusing to hand over the money. I'm 26 and work in this small office where we're all pretty close and usually help each other out during tough times. Recently, one of my coworkers came to us saying she was struggling financially because of a sudden medical issue and might not be able to make rent that month. Everyone felt really bad for her, so a few of us decided to organize a small fundraiser to help her out. Since I usually coordinate group activities, I ended up taking the lead on this whole thing. I reached out to everyone in the office, collected contributions, and even set up a little online donation page for people to contribute anonymously if they wanted. Over the course of about 2 weeks, we managed to raise almost $800, which I thought was pretty amazing for our small office. People were really generous and genuinely wanted to help her through what seemed like a really difficult time. I was feeling good about organizing something that would make a real difference in someone's life. But then, here's where everything went sideways. I was out with some friends from a different department last weekend, and one of them mentioned seeing our coworker at this expensive restaurant downtown, celebrating what looked like a promotion or new job with a group of people. She was apparently posting about it on social media, talking about her new higher-paying position and how excited she was about the salary increase. When I heard this, my stomach just dropped. I went home and did a little digging on her social media, and sure enough, she'd been posting about her new job and celebrating her financial success right around the same time she was telling us she couldn't make rent. I felt completely betrayed and honestly pretty stupid for believing her story. The next day at work, I confronted her privately about what I'd learned. At first she tried to deny it, but eventually she admitted that yes, she'd gotten a new job with better pay, but claimed she still needed the money because she had other debts and expenses. She said the medical issue was real, even if her financial situation had improved, and that she deserved the help because she'd been struggling before getting the new job. I told her I couldn't in good conscience give her the money that people donated thinking she was about to lose her apartment. She got defensive and said it wasn't my decision to make since people had already donated willingly. When word got around the office about my decision to withhold the funds, people were split. Some agreed that she'd been deceptive and supported my choice, but others thought I was being too harsh and that we should give her the benefit of the doubt. A few people are saying I'm on a power trip and that it's not my place to investigate people's financial situations or judge whether they deserve help. Now the whole office atmosphere is weird and tense, and I'm wondering if I made the right call here. Should I have just given her the money and let people decide for themselves whether they still wanted to help after learning the truth? Story 3. My boyfriend's best friend started distancing himself because of me. So I think I might have ruined my boyfriend's friendship with his best friend, and now I don't know if I should feel guilty or vindicated about the whole situation. I'm 26 and I've been dating my boyfriend for 4 years now. He has this tight group of 6 lifelong friends who've all known each other since middle school, and they're incredibly close. They all still live near each other and hang out pretty much every weekend without fail. I actually really like these guys, they're good people and they've always been welcoming to me. Since I'm the longest tenured girlfriend in the group, I'll sometimes pop by their gatherings to say a quick hello, or if it's a mixed group with other partners, I'll stay for the whole thing. But over the last 6 months or so, I've noticed that one of the friends, let's call him Jake, has been acting differently around me. At first I thought maybe I was imagining it, but it became pretty obvious that he was going out of his way to avoid me. Like, if I walked into a room, he'd suddenly find a reason to leave. If we were all hanging out and I joined the conversation, he'd get quiet and withdraw. During group activities, he'd position himself as far away from me as possible. It was starting to get really awkward and honestly kind of hurtful. I kept wondering what I'd done wrong or if I'd somehow offended him without realizing it. My boyfriend noticed it too and kept saying he'd talk to Jake about it, but weeks went by and nothing changed. The whole dynamic was starting to affect the group because Jake would sometimes just not show up to things if he knew I was going to be there. Finally, I decided I needed to address this directly because it was affecting not just me, but my boyfriend and the whole friend group. So I reached out to Jake privately and asked if we could talk about whatever was going on between us. I was prepared for him to tell me I'd said something offensive or done something to upset him. What I wasn't prepared for was him confessing that he'd developed feelings for me and that being around me had become too difficult for him to handle. He said he'd been trying to distance himself to get over it and hadn't meant to make things weird for everyone. He apologized for his behavior and said he knew it wasn't fair to me or to my boyfriend, but that he didn't know how else to deal with the situation. Honestly, I felt terrible for him but also relieved that it wasn't something I'd done wrong. I thanked him for being honest and suggested that maybe he should talk to my boyfriend about it too, since the secrecy was clearly eating at him and affecting their friendship. Well, when Jake told my boyfriend what was going on, my boyfriend completely lost it. He felt betrayed that his best friend had been harboring feelings for me and that I'd gone behind his back to have a private conversation with Jake instead of letting him handle it. Now he's barely speaking to Jake, their friend group is divided and awkward, and my boyfriend keeps going back and forth between being mad at me for getting involved and being mad at Jake for the whole situation. Some of the other friends think I should have stayed out of it, while others think Jake should have been upfront from the beginning. Was I wrong to reach out to Jake directly instead of just letting my boyfriend deal with it? Story 4. I told my daughter-in-law she's not ready to be a parent because she can't drive. So I may have completely destroyed my relationship with my daughter-in-law by telling her she's not ready to be a parent, and honestly I'm not sure if I was being helpful or just a complete monster. We live in the US where driving is pretty essential, especially in our area where public transportation is basically non-existent. I try to meet up with my daughters and daughters-in-law about once a month for brunch or some other fun activity, and overall I thought I had a pretty good relationship with Kelly, my son's wife. Here's the issue though, Kelly cannot drive. She has severe anxiety about it and has refused to learn for years now. My son basically drives her everywhere, and when he can't, I've been stepping up to help out. Uber exists but it's expensive and not always reliable in our area. Recently, Kelly and my son announced they're trying to have a baby, which should be exciting news, right? But during our last brunch, Kelly started talking about how nervous she is about becoming a mom and all the responsibilities that come with it. She was asking for advice about parenting and expressing concerns about things like getting to doctor appointments, handling emergencies, and managing all the logistics of having a child. That's when I made what was probably a huge mistake. I told her, pretty bluntly, that I thought they weren't ready to be parents if she couldn't even drive herself places. I pointed out that what would happen if the baby was sick and needed to go to the emergency room while my son was at work. What about routine pediatric appointments, daycare pickup and drop-off, or any of the million errands that come with having kids? I said that expecting my son to handle 100% of the transportation for a family of 3, plus relying on me and others to fill in the gaps, wasn't fair to anyone, especially not to a child who might need immediate medical attention. I suggested that maybe she should work on overcoming her driving anxiety before they start trying for a baby, or at least have a solid plan in place for handling transportation emergencies. Well, Kelly did not take this well at all. She started crying and said I was being cruel and unsupportive, that plenty of people raise children without driving, and that I was making her feel like a failure before she'd even become a mother. She said her anxiety is a real medical condition and that I was being dismissive of her mental health struggles. My son called me later absolutely furious, saying I'd overstepped boundaries and hurt his wife's feelings for no good reason. He said they'd figure out the logistics and that it wasn't my place to judge their readiness for parenthood. Now Kelly won't speak to me, my son is barely talking to me, and I'm wondering if I was completely out of line. Part of me still thinks I raised valid concerns about the practical realities of parenting when one parent can't drive, especially in our area. But maybe I should have kept my mouth shut and let them figure it out on their own. Was I being a concerned grandmother or just a judgmental mother-in-law? If you enjoyed these stories, drop a comment telling me which one was your favorite. And if you want more relaxed Reddit readings, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, like, comment and subscribe for more relaxed Reddit readings.